What is going on, everyone? Welcome to our training today on the new way to manage your time in 2018. And yes, it does not involve working a single hour more or sacrificing time with your family. My name's Jeff Woods. I'm the vice president here at the One Thing team. And in my past life, I used to be the lead dancer and MC at Legoland. And from time to time, I have a tendency to dress up like Derek Zoolander for some of our trainings, and we'll get into some of that later. We are here today really to bring value to you and to have a great time, which is why I show ridiculous pictures of myself. Throughout this training, we are going to ask you to engage with us so that we can better connect with each other and that we can get the most of our training today. So let's do that right off the bat. Go ahead and share something that's funny or ridiculous about yourself in the chat box, because I would love to see, I'd love to see what just comes up there. It'll just make me smile. And a quick shout out, if you are one of our productives in Living Your One Thing, please go ahead and put productive in the chat box so we can see who is here. And we have a lot of you here with us today, and we want to make sure that you have a positive experience. And we're going to ask for your help. We're going to ask that you be respectful of your peers here by using this chat box to interact with us, to share ahas, to ask questions. Oh, wow. Tanya, I'm not even reading that publicly. That was amazing, though. With this many people, we always are going to have some joker. So just do me a favor. Treat each other with respect. Go ahead and thank you for what you are putting in there so far. This is awesome. We're going to have a blast. So also do me a favor. Make sure you have a pen and paper. You are going to need that for some of the exercises today. Just fair warning, we are going to be doing some exercises so you can put this into action. So let's dive in. Let's be clear about who this is for. This is for you if you have a business. This is for you if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader in an organization, if you're an employee looking to advance in your career. And this is for you if you're a parent who works from home. If any of this describes you, then we know at some point in time, you likely have asked the question, how do I need to manage my time this year so I can have better results? And many of us in the back of our minds, we're asking the question, do I really need to sacrifice time with my family to be able to get ahead? Our goal for this web class is for you to believe that there is a new way for you to manage your time. So this can be your most productive year ever. And contrary to popular belief, extraordinary results does not come by running around all day, multitasking and chasing squirrels. You making this your most productive year ever is only possible when you commit to living your one thing. Are you with me? Now, here's the deal. Over the next hour or so, we're going to share some great ideas with you. But as you know, content alone can really only take you so far. Out of curiosity, how many of you have read The One Thing or listened to The One Thing podcast? If so, please go ahead and put the number 1 in the chat box. And for those of you who have read The One Thing, this will be the test. If you're one of the people who put number 1 in the chat box, do you live your one thing every day and feel like you've truly mastered the content? If so, put a number 2 in the chat box. Otherwise, do a question mark. So have you read the one thing? Put a number 1 in the chat box. And if you feel like you live it every day and you have mastered it, a number 2 goes into the chat box. And if not, a question mark. Aha. See, this proves it right here. We've all experienced this gap between knowledge and implementation. So many of you have reached out to us and said, I love the book, but I struggle to implement it. To help you implement what you learn here today, we've prepared a really special offer that we'll share with you after the content portion of the training. Would it be okay with you if we shared this with you later in the training? If so, go ahead and put yes in the chat box. And we want to thank you for staying with us throughout the training by supporting you with some Q&A at the end. So we're going to spend a bunch of time, as long as we really need, to answer your questions. And we're also going to give you a special bonus. We're going to help you make one specific change to your calendar that will immediately give you back at least as much time as you're about to invest in this training. So how's that for an ROI on your time? Stick around. At the end, we are going to do one quick and you will immediately free up as much time, if not more, as you're about to invest into this training. So stick around and get ready, because over the next hour, we're going to show you some simple ways that you can manage your time differently so you really can make this your most productive year ever. Now, let us give you some context so you know where these ideas are coming from. Back in 2013, Gary Keller, the guy on the left, co-founded, he's the co-founder of Keller Williams Realty. He and his co-author, Jay Papasan, wrote a book. It's called The One Thing. Now, the book has done extraordinarily well. It's now one of the highest rated business books of all time. And Gary and Jay looked up and said, we know there's a bigger opportunity here. But the challenge was Gary's one thing is being chairman of Keller Williams. Jay's one thing is writing books. They realized they were missing a person. They needed someone who could turn the one thing into a productivity empire. And that became my opportunity. And over the past few years, we've helped over 1 million people through the One Thing podcast and our implementation programs like Time Blocking Mastery and Living Your One Thing. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because just a few short years ago, really, I was in your shoes. Forth between slides and between the camera, because just keeps it more engaging. So if you can see my face, please go ahead and put something in the chat box. Let us know that you can see it. For 5 years, I was in medical device sales, which was a great job. I was very grateful. It provided a great lifestyle for my family. How many of you have ever been in a situation where even though things may be good for you personally, you're not fulfilled? Something's missing. If so, put yes in the chat box. That's where I was. The challenge was making good money, providing a great lifestyle. I had the proverbial golden handcuffs on. I didn't have a reason to make a change until two things happened. First was a colleague of mine had a stroke, and at the time he was 35. My wife and I had just bought our first house. We just had a child. She's a stay-at-home mom, and we're realizing if that was me, what happens to my family? Which was very unsettling. And the next week, my company needed to make a change to the commission structure. And overnight, my income got slashed by 40%, which I'm curious how many of you have ever suffered a big pay cut or lost a job? If so, put a bunch of dollar signs in the chat box. You know how painful that is. This was what I realized. This was the motivation that I needed to make a change. And so I knew that I had always wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted more for my life, and it was time. So I set out on a road to surround myself with the right mentors who could guide me and started a podcast called The Mentee. This is actually how I met Jay Papasan, because he was our keynote speaker at a national sales meeting. I cornered him when he came off stage, asked to interview him, and built a relationship. And the opportunity was created to move my family here to Austin to start this company with Gary and Jay. And the reason I share this with you is because over the last few years, I've really learned what it takes to manage your time systematically. How many of you were ever taught how to manage your time in school? Like you went through a formal class where they handed you a system and said, this is what you need to do so you can get your most important work done first and still have an amazing life. Me neither. That's the opportunity that was afforded to me. And today I want to walk you through some of the most powerful tweaks that were made that we really hope will make this your most productive year ever. So with that, I'm going to flip back on over to the slides. And here we go. How many of you have ever felt like you're struggling? You're struggling just to get the kind of results that you know you should be deserving. Go ahead and put yes in the questions box. If so, this is probably why. Have you ever worked really hard all day? You worked so hard and you look up at the end of the day and you wonder, I know I was busy, but did I even get anything done? If so, put yes in the chat box. Now, here's the question for you. This is kind of the accountability moment. Do your days consist of doing it the old way, which is checking email? Do your days consist of attending meetings, responding to urgent requests, getting distracted by people stopping by and asking you if you've got a minute? Do your days consist of chatting with your colleagues and hopefully finding time to make progress on your priorities? And as a result, you just end up feeling like you didn't get anything done. Does this describe you? If so, it's not your fault. You were never taught the new way to manage your time. And trust us, there is a new way, because after this training, what it should look like for you is having clarity on the few things, not the laundry list of things, the few things that matter most to your business. It means having time blocked for you to accomplish your most important work, having small batches of time for email and those urgent requests, and feeling accomplished at the end of the day and having plenty of free time to be present with your family and yourself. How many of you would love this to be your new reality? This will all be possible when you learn how to knock down what we call the 3 dominoes of business growth. The first is the number one reason why your business may not be growing as fast as it could be and why you're likely on the path to burnout. Then it's the one tweak many of our top members have made to achieve their big goals without working a single hour more or sacrificing time with their family. And it's how you can start getting things done and all those things that are currently distracting you most, how you can turn those into your biggest opportunities for you to protect your time. So let's start with the lead domino, the number one reason why your business may not be growing as fast as it could be and why you may be on the path to burnout. November 1st, 2015 was the day that I moved my family here to Austin. Yes, we brought our onesies, as you can see. But jokes aside, this was not an easy period in our lives. My partner, Jay, told me that he would push me to my limits within the first 90 days. They wanted to see what I was made of, to see if I was a fit to run the company. He said that he and Gary would be assessing me on 3 specific things: the ability to cast a vision for our company, the ability to lead with revenue by delivering $100,000 out of thin air in 90 days or less, and the ability to prove that I could recruit and retain amazing talent. I had 90 days to prove that I could do these things. In addition to that, I was facing some personal obstacles, we'll call them. Since we had just moved our family to Austin, we were still getting settled in our home, trying to figure out our way around town. And on top of that, we had to find a new hospital. And that's because my wife was pregnant with our second child and she was due within 60 days. So as you can probably imagine, from day one, it was just chaos. If you looked at my calendar at the time, it looked like this. It was just game of Tetris, back-to-back meetings, felt like I had zero room to breathe. Then there was just this never-ending sea of emails. I really felt like I was on this sinking ship, just trying to dump the water over. I could never really dig myself out. And in addition to that, you have all these voicemails piling up, constant interruptions from the people stopping by asking if you've got a minute. I'd look up at the end of each day and I asked, like many of you, I know I was busy, but did I get anything done? I was so stressed and I really just felt like I had zero control. Have you ever felt like this? If so, put yes in the chat box. But I knew that there was light on the other side of the tunnel because Jake told me, he said, this is going to be a challenging time. I knew that this was coming, but it wasn't long before Gary challenged me directly. And it happened in one of our state of the company meetings where I was presenting my vision for the company with the hope of getting Gary and Jay's approval. And we're going to go back to FaceTime again because I like to switch it up. Here, Gary has this little private layer for masterminds and meetings. And I walked into this beautiful room and at the back is a conference table and Gary and Jay are sitting there and myself. And I walk in and I hand each of them a single sheet of paper that just had 3 priorities on them. The 3 things, if we just accomplished these 3 big rocks, would completely allow us to achieve and make this the best year we've ever had. And so I started talking about priority number 1. Gary and Jay asked a bunch of questions. I answered them. I said, "Are we good?" They go, "Yeah." And so I start moving on to number 2. And about halfway through number 2, Gary started asking more questions about number 1. I didn't think anything of it. I just I answered the questions. I said, "Are we good?" They go, "Yeah." So I finish up number 2 and I start talking about number 3. And Gary starts asking more questions about number 1. At this point, I know something's off, but I have no idea what I'm doing wrong. So I answer the questions. I say, "Are we good?" They go, "Yeah." I'm talking about number 3 for no more than 10 seconds before Gary stops me a final time. And he asks, "Do you need to do number 3 in order to do number 2? I said, "No." He said, "Do you need to do number 2 in order to do number 1? I said, "No." He said, "Do me a favor, just draw a line between number 1 and number 2, or even better, if you could just, here, let me see that. Just rip the page in half. Don't even think about number 2 and number 3 until you've earned the right to by mastering number 1. Now, here's a question. How many of you have ever heard this story before? If so, put yes in the chat box. If no, do a question mark. We're going to flip back to the slides. There's a reason we're sharing this with you. Because in that moment, reason our business wasn't growing as fast as it could be, why I was feeling like I was on path to burnout, is because I didn't have a system for managing my time. I was trying to get all the things done that didn't really matter and hopefully free up time to accomplish the one thing that matters most. Now, here's the accountability moment. We can see that some of you've heard that for the first time, and some of you have heard that story before. For those of you who have heard it before, how many of you are still walking around doing everything that doesn't matter and hopefully freeing up time to do the things that matter most? Go ahead and put yes in the chat box. How many of you still find yourself checking email before you advance the ball on your most important work? How many of you find yourself sitting in meetings that you know you shouldn't be in when you could be doing something that would actually advance your career and get you better results? You know, and that's okay. But we bring this to you because we care. That's why we're bringing the candor, because sometimes you need that voice inside your world to really challenge you, to call you to the table and say, even if you have heard this before, consuming content is not enough. You have to implement it. Here's a question for you. What will you do differently following this training so that you can start acting in order of priority? Share that answer in the chat box. Now, like I mentioned, I didn't have a system for managing my time. And in the one thing, Gary and Jay call this acting entrepreneurially. You know you're acting entrepreneurially when you just do what comes naturally to you. In my case, I was waking up every day, ready to tackle the world. I was taking massive action, making lots of mistakes, and wondering why I was hitting up against my natural ceiling of achievement. How many of you are there right now? You're hitting up against your natural ceiling of achievement. You're working hard and you're not getting the results. Put yes in the chat box. The challenge is, as long as you act this way, you will have a ceiling above your achievement. The only way to break through your current ceiling is to move from being entrepreneurial to being purposeful. You act purposefully when you identify a model and a system that, if you just worked the system, would automatically shatter your natural ceiling of achievement and allow you to achieve extraordinary results. Gary and Jay handed me the system and I started living it. And from then on, I stopped worrying about all the things I thought I needed to do, and I simply focused on following the system. It forced me to say no to a lot of shiny objects, which is tough because I'm the shiny object guy. I would have normally said yes to them. But as a result of doing this, I started getting higher quality work done. I was able to leave the office our business started to take off, and I was actually able to start leaving the office at 5 p.m. and be present with my family, who luckily, as you can see, my kids have gotten more of my wife's looks than mine. By now, are you starting to see how if you stopped relying on your natural ability and you could just follow a system for managing your time versus reinventing the wheel, that you could make this your most productive year ever? If so, put yes in the chat box. The number one reason your business isn't growing as fast as it could and why you may be on the path to burnout is because you're acting entrepreneurially when you could be acting purposefully. And you do that when you follow a system. Chris Flynn is one of our Living Your One Thing members who really embraced this idea around acting purposefully. At the time, she really wanted to take on a bigger role in her company and really found herself getting caught between working in the business versus taking time to work on the business. And she shared with us that the One Thing mindset really helped her just achieve this 360 vision for one of their online brands that she was working on. And this happened all within a month. She shared it with her team. She got a lot of great feedback. And as a result of doing this, she ended up getting promoted. When you follow a system and act purposefully, you can accomplish so much more. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson says an ounce of action is worth a ton of theory. So, since we hope to earn the right to be your accountability partners in getting results, can we have your permission to turn this theory into some action right now? If so, put action, baby, in the chat box. I told you, we're going to have some fun. So grab that piece of paper It's time for the piece of paper and the pen. They're like, oh man, I thought he was kidding. I didn't think that he actually would make us get the paper. Get the paper, baby. We're going to do this. So here's what I want you to do. Grab the paper, and then I want you to go ahead and put a line down the middle. A little sip of water. All right, line down the middle. Now here's what I want you to do. On the left side of the paper, please write down everything you need to do this week. Just stream of consciousness. Think of all the things you need to do this week. Ready, set, go. And I'm going to play out with you, by the way. Right? Okay, so there we go. Now, here's a different question. If you could only do a handful of things, like 3 to 5 max, what would be the handful of priorities that if you just accomplished those would make the biggest impact in your business? We're talking big rocks here, okay? Big priorities. Go ahead and write those down on the right-hand side. Okay, we're going to give you a few more seconds. Now, here's what we call the aha moment. If what you wrote down on the left side is different from the right, put yes in the chat box. There it is. Yeah. Now, next question. If you could only choose one of whatever's on the right for you, what's the one thing you can do such that by doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary for you this week? For me, it comes down to 2 hours of time blocked to service our corporate training clients. Now, here's the question. If doing the most important thing is the most important thing, why would you do anything else? Think about it. If doing the most important thing is the most important thing, why would you do anything else? This is why having a system is so important, folks. Imagine if every day you took action on the vital priorities that are on the right side of your paper and you did it every single day for 6 months, just advancing the ball on those first. Not to say that it's the only thing you do, not to say you don't check email or attend meetings. You simply did those things first. What would be possible for you in your business 6 months from now? I would love to see your feedback on this one. Imagine if you did it every single day for 6 months, what would be possible in your business? Jim says, I would double my income. Teresa says, more time with my kids. I would get promoted, says Susan. Nicole says, everything. Meet my financial goals, says Bonnie. Interesting, folks. So here's the deal. As simple as this sounds, we know that staying consistent over the long run is not easy, right? The one thing is the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. Notice it doesn't say the easy truth behind extraordinary results. And your responses earlier proved it. So many of you have read the book or listened to the podcast. Why do you think you haven't been able to live it every day? It's kind of like signing up for one of those online training programs. How many of you have ever signed up for a new program and found yourself not following through? I've definitely been that guy. My hands up in the air plenty of times. That's because it's exciting at first. Then after a week or two, the novelty wears off and it gets boring. And eventually life gets in the way and you find yourself feeling bad because you never followed through. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is why we're excited to share the second domino with you, because we know it'll really change the game for you if you embrace this idea and implement it. And that's the one tweak many of our top members have made to achieve their big goals without working a single hour more or sacrificing time with their family. Peggy is a woman we worked with in our time blocking mastery master course. When at the time she was really focused on scaling her business. And the one thing that she could do to scale her business was lead generation. And about 2 weeks into our time together, Peggy ran into a little bit of a problem. She had been going through a really rough period in her life. Her husband had passed away. She was just realizing this is the next chapter. And she found herself feeling alone and with a series of very unhealthy habits. She wasn't exercising. She was eating poorly. And as a result, when she looked in the mirror, she wasn't confident in the woman that she saw. And she knew she needed to make a change. And that's really when we connected and she started working with us. And while she really wanted to grow her business, she was struggling to consistently take actions that were required because she was always tired. And at this point, she did what most people do when they start something and struggle to follow through. She told herself that if she could just be more disciplined, if she could just have more willpower, she just worked harder, then she could follow through and get the results. But there was a deeper challenge here. Peggy realized that there was no way she could grow her business if she first and foremost didn't respect the woman she saw when she looked in the mirror. And that's when this quote from F.M. Alexander really shifted everything. People don't decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. If Peggy wanted to grow her business, she needed to stop relying on discipline and willpower for her to be consistent, and she needed to start focusing on developing the right habits that would allow her to follow through automatically. Just like for those of you who've struggled to live the book or have signed up for a new online program and not followed through, our question for you is, were you relying on your discipline, your willpower, or your work ethic to carry you through instead of forming habits that would automatically carry you through? When you do this, it's kind of like shifting from being that guy just exhausted on the bike because you've been working so hard pedaling up the mountain to suddenly shifting and being in that car on cruise control. Peggy realized if she could form the right habits, she would automatically follow through. And after giving it some thought, she realized the one thing she could do to scale her business was to have more energy. And the one thing she could do to have more energy was to transform her health. The one thing she could do to transform her health was to exercise every day. The one thing she could do to exercise every day was to sign up for a boot camp class. And the one thing she could do to make sure that she got to that boot camp class was to be in her gym clothes and out the office door by 5:33 p.m. every workday. Now, fast forward just 6 weeks. Peggy lost 20 pounds. And more importantly, she had regained confidence as a woman. She had more energy. She was more effective with her clients. And as a result, her business started taking off. And it didn't require her to work a single hour more or sacrifice any time with the people who matter most to her. People don't decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. That's why the one tweak many of our top members have made, without working a single hour more or sacrificing time with the people that matter most, is to stop relying on your discipline. Stop relying on your willpower. Stop relying on your work ethic. And start forming the right power habits to automatically achieve your goals. By now, are you getting this? Put yes in the chat box. Can you imagine how powerful forming the right habits is? Now, folks, we made a commitment to bringing value to you today, so we're going to put this into action. So grab that piece of paper. And here's what I want you to do. These are the 7 circles, page 114 of the book. Gary and Jay would say these are the 7 most important areas of your life. You've got your spirituality, because ultimately every single one of us is going to ask, why are we here? You got your physical health, because if you don't have your health, where are you going to live? Your personal life, the things you do for yourself, your hobbies, the things that make you happy. Your relationships, that's your family, your friends, your mentors, your colleagues. Your job, which is what your individual roles and responsibilities are. For your business, which is, if you're a business owner, then what the one thing you can do for your business, or if you're an employee, how what you do lines up with the mission of the business, and your finances. Now, here's the question for you. If you could only pick one area this year, literally, if we put you in a strange alternate world where you could only make an improvement in one area of your life this year, which would it be? Go ahead and put that in the chat box. What would it be for you? I'm asking my assistant. Personal, probably. Hers is personal. Mine is relationships. Specifically, my family. Okay? So let's see here. We got Jim says, or I've got health, I've got finances from Robert. Karen says personal life. Nicole says health. Kathy says finances. Kurt says finance, physical health, finances, relationships. Yeah, it's always interesting how it's always across the board, which is totally cool. Now, normally we would tell you to draw a little diagram, to self-assess how you're doing in each area of your life, to fill it in and go, OMG, my relationships need so much help. But we're just going to blast to the good part. You found that area of your life. What's the one habit you can form such that by forming it would make that area of your life a 10 out of 10? Think about it. If you could just form one habit, what's the one habit that you can form such that by forming it would make that area of your life a 10 out of 10? What would that be for you? Put your answers in the chat box. Now, here's why we are taking you through this exercise. Knowing your one thing doesn't mean that you actually do your one thing. Life is about studying consequences. And when you look at your job, your finances, your health, you are where you are today because of the actions you have taken and the actions you have not taken. Makes sense, right? When you do the right activities often enough, you will get the results sooner or later. When it comes to your health, if you do the right activities over and over again, you will create a healthier body. Conversely, if you do what I have been doing recently, which is reaching for that frozen cookie dough every single night, it's like, oh, it's just one cookie. But over time, you'll create a different result for your body. The same holds true for that area of your life that you know you really want to make a change in. And if you're relying on your discipline and your willpower to take the right action, can we agree that you're setting yourself up for failure? How can you become the type of person who this year looks at their goals and says, what habits can I form to automatically carry me to my goals? Aha. And when you do this, you knock down that second domino of business growth. So this leads us to the question, how do you make sure you do this consistently so this isn't something you start and you don't finish? And this is where the third domino really comes down to it. And it's how to get all of those things that are currently distracting you most to start becoming your biggest opportunities for protecting your time. A great case study of this is Adam. Adam has worked with us in several of our programs. He's also my friend from Down Under. He owns a company that builds luxury homes in Australia. And at the time, he was just so focused on scaling his business, but he was really struggling. You know, like many of us who are business owners or entrepreneurs, he wears a lot of hats. And almost all of his time was spent working in his business. And he knew that if he wanted to grow his business, he'd have to start investing more time to work on the business. But, you know, this for him was a little bit scary because as someone who values quality in his product and his reputation, it matters that things get done right. And if you think about other people doing it, you wonder if it'll get done as well. And he was concerned that if he said no to things, that his people would start to feel like he wasn't there to support them as well. And that's really when we started working together. And he went through time blocking mastery. He became a member of Living Your One Thing. He's been working with his coach, and he put a plan in place to start eliminating the distractions that were taking up the majority of his time. And when we asked him, what's the one thing that was taking up most of your time, he realized he was visiting every job site every single week. We said, what's the one thing you can do to avoid visiting that job? And he said, time block 15 minutes a day to work on the business to build processes so things can succeed without me. You fast forward less than 30 days, Adam was able to take back 20 hours a week of his time. 20 hours a week. That is not a typo. We didn't accidentally add a zero on the slide. 20 hours a week that he used to waste on job sites. And because he learned to say yes to himself first, he made it someone else's opportunity to step up as a leader in those locations. That's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. You fast forward to today, Adam invests almost 100% of his time now working on the business and turning their growth of their company into a rocket ship. And since he learned how to eliminate his biggest distractions, he was enable the people around him to take on bigger roles. Through this, he really learned that every day, the people around you will ask for your time. And since we're nice people and we want to help, we naturally say yes without realizing that when we say yes to one thing, we end up saying no to everything else. including our most important work. The way to get all the things that are currently distracting you most to start becoming your biggest opportunities, protecting your time, is to learn to say yes to yourself first and then say yes to everything else in the time that remains. Imagine you want to make this your most productive year ever, right? What would happen if you said yes to yourself first? And then you could say yes to everybody else later. So let's take action. Grab that paper. What we want you to do is we want you to make a list of all the distractions that are currently stopping you from accomplishing your most important work. We're going to give you about 10 seconds just to start getting some down. Okay, so ready, set, go. If you could only eliminate one, literally, we're in a weird world where you only get to eliminate one distraction. What's the one distraction that you would eliminate that would make the biggest impact? Share that with us in the chat box. I would love to see. I see phone, drop-ins at my cube, my own mind wandering. Renee, I got something for you there. Just kidding. Another phone, email. Excellent. Okay, here's the next question. What's the one thing you can do proactively such that by doing it would eliminate this distraction? The one action you can take proactively such that by taking it would eliminate the distraction. There you go. See, folks, sometimes you just need that person in your life that will ask you the right questions so you can self-discover the answer. Email's a huge distraction for both of us. And Kurt goes, I'm just going to turn it off. Yeah. Do you think my inbox is open right now? No. Do you think my phone is on right now? It's on airplane mode and do not disturb, because you're my one thing. And if doing the most important thing is the most important thing, why would you do anything else? So here's the good news. This works for you whether you're a business owner, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a manager in the corporation, an employee, if you're building a business on the side, if you work from home, or even if you're a stay-at-home parent like my wife. It works if you're willing to work for it. This is the new way to manage your time this year. So this can be your most productive year ever. And it's only possible when you commit to living your one thing. Now we're going back. You've seen this slide before, and we're going to it again because now you're just going to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. The old way. The old way of going through your days is checking email, attending emails, or attending meetings, responding to urgent requests, saying yes when people ask if you've got a minute, chatting with your colleagues, hopefully finding time to make progress on your big priorities, and ultimately feeling like you didn't get anything done. Can we agree that that is in the past? Say yes. Make the commitment. Say yes. Do you see how the new opportunity is possible for you? The opportunity for you to have clarity on the few things that matter most in your business, to have time blocked to accomplish that important work first, to have small batches of time for you to handle email and urgent requests and to skip around the office like I like to do every day, so that you can feel accomplished at the end of the day and have plenty of free time to be present with your family and for yourself. So let's recap how you do all of this. What's the number one way to grow your business and avoid the path to burnout? The answer is move from acting entrepreneurially to acting purposefully by following a proven system for managing your time. What's the one tweak many of our top members made to achieve their big goals without working a single hour more? Focus on forming the right power habits to automatically achieve your goals. And how do you get all of those things that are distracting you most to start becoming your biggest opportunity for protecting your time? The answer is learn to say yes to yourself first, and then say yes to everything else in the time remains. Now, let us ask you a question. How many of you feel like this right now? We know we've covered a lot, and we know that some of you feel like this right now. Are we right? If so, we totally get it. And since we want you to be able to stay consistent implementing this. Would it be okay if we shared a special offer on how we can help you implement this at a higher level? And then we'll get into some Q&A so we can spend some time together and help you further. If so, put yes in the chat box. Awesome. Thank you very much. So here's what we put together for you guys. It's called the Productive System. This is your system so you can purposefully manage your time to make this your most productive year ever. And the first thing that's included in the Productive System is 12 months of free access to our Living Your One Thing membership community. This is where we can really be your accountability partners in getting clarity on what your goals really are and identify the specific actions you can take each day to achieve them. And when you access this membership, you will get help achieving your big goals faster than you thought possible. You'll get clarity on what your true priorities are. You know, those vital things that if you just did those would make it the most exceptional week in your entire professional career. You'll get a system to manage your time so that you feel accomplished and satisfied at the end of each week. The average Living Your One Thing member, which we've had 1,500 of them now, the average has taken back control of 20% of their time in the first 30 days. And that's just the average. How much faster do you think you would accomplish your goals if you were able to take back control of 20% of your time every month to do your most important work, instead of wasting your time on all that little 80% stuff that doesn't really matter? Wouldn't that be amazing? Imagine having 20% more time. Now let us share what some of our members their experience so that you have a little bit of context for this. Camila shared with us that this program really helped her learn the tools that allowed her to break through her own limitations in order to feel like she was living a truly full, productive, and happy life. Rochelle said that this helped her create clarity around her purpose in life. And then it helped her break down her weekly tasks and accomplishments so that she was able to move closer toward achieving them. Now, I know some of you who are already here, you're some of our productives in Living Your One Thing. If you're already a Living Your One Thing member, we have really great news for you. If you're already on the monthly membership, when you access the Productive System, you will automatically be upgraded to an annual member, and your next 12 months will be free. And if you're currently an annual member, we'll upgrade your account by adding an additional 12 months onto your existing membership at no additional charge. So the first thing you're going to get is 12 months access to Living Your One Thing. This is valued at $3,997. The next thing we're including in here is Time Blocking Mastery. This is our master course that shows you how to form power habits that stick through time blocking. So we know, and you know, that by forming the right habits, this will just make a massive impact in your world. Imagine what would be possible if you just had a system that held your hand every single week so that that one activity that you already identified to transform that one area of your life, boom, it was a habit just 66 short days from now. Wouldn't that be extraordinary? Adam's a perfect case study of what happens when you form the right power habit. Adam's a chiropractor who was struggling to grow his business without sacrificing time with his family. And he knew that there was a way to get the type of growth he wanted and to still have a great marriage and to have a great personal life. But he was really unsure of how to find that balance. And after considering all the things that he could do, he realized the one thing he can do was to form a power habit for himself personally, because there's no way he could show up in his business or in his marriage if he wasn't the best version of himself. And the one thing he could do to transform himself personally was to form the habit of simply going for a walk every day. That was it. Just a walk. You fast forward less than 66 days. Adam sent us an email saying, just by waking up earlier every day, my wife and I are now the happiest we've ever been, because I'm actually going to bed with her instead of staying up late and working. My income went up almost 25% because I started showing up more every day for my customers. I had 2 extra hours every morning because I went for a walk to listen to your trainings and the audiobooks that you guys have created, like The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which inspired us to buy our first rental property, which has now inspired us to explore real estate syndications so that we can hopefully one day live the rest of our lives doing charitable work. All of this happened just by waking up earlier to go for a walk in the morning. I figured out my lead domino, and it completely changed my life. Pretty amazing, right? So when you access Time Blocking Mastery, we'll be there each week, holding your hand while you form your power habit that sticks so you can put your most important activities on cruise control. The good news is this is 100% digital and can be done on demand. So even if you're the busiest person you know, it will fit into your schedule. So you're going to get 12 months of free access to living your one thing so you can have a system to focus on doing your most important work. You're going to get access to our time blocking mastery master course so you learn how to form power habits that stick. That's $7,228 of value. Now, we asked what else could we include so that this would just be a completely comprehensive productive system. And the answer was our productive guide to eliminating distractions. After working with thousands of people just like you over the past few years, we really feel like we've got a grasp on the biggest things that distract you and the simple ways that you can eliminate each of them one by one. Wouldn't it be cool if you had a guide that made it simple for you to silence all of those distractions that you listed earlier, so that you could say yes to yourself first and then say yes to everything else in the time that remained? This guide alone will help you take back hours each week of your time. An example of this is Catherine. She's someone who really took saying yes to herself first seriously. And one thing that's important to her is she's always just wanted to be the type of person that others viewed as a team player. And this presented a challenge because, as you know, every time you say yes to someone else's request, you're really saying no to getting your most important work done. And after we started working together, she shared this post with us. She said, I just want to share the little bit with you about today and encourage you to say no and stay true to your 411. Yesterday, I had about 45 minutes before I was scheduled to leave early for the day for some family events. And I get an email from a coworker who wanted a short legal document written up and ready to go for the morning. Now, she was already getting ready to leave for the afternoon and assumed I could do it. And she's also known for pushing things like this on people and expecting it yesterday. How many of you know people like this, by the way? If so, put yes in the chat box. I took a deep breath and responded by saying, I can write it up for you, but I won't be able to do it until tomorrow morning. And guess what? At 5 p.m., she emails me a copy of her draft of what she needed. Catherine discovered that she has always been 100% in control of her time. She had just never been taught how to take control of it in her everyday life. Do you think if you had the productive guide to eliminating distractions, you'd be able to say yes to yourself first and feel a sense of fulfillment at the end of each day? We know this is possible to you. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get 12 months free access to living your one thing. You're going to get time blocking mastery, and you're going to get the productive guide to eliminating distractions. That's $7,785 of value. And there's one more thing we had to include to ensure that you would get the consistent results you deserve. And that's access to the One Thing community. Jim Rohn says that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to build a great business, have plenty of free time without working a single hour more or sacrificing time with your family, do you think you'd get there faster if you belong to a community of people who had the same goals and were on the same journey? Absolutely. The good news is you're about to access that community. Here's the impact this community has made on other people's lives. Debbie said that I feel like I'm finally involved with a group of people who are striving for something greater. I'm now accountable to the goals that I've chosen for my life and have been inspired by others in this community. It feels great to share the journey and see all of us reaching our goals. Mark said that this community is like-minded people who really understand that there are ways of creating the life that you want. It's supportive, it's informative, and it's transformational. And Kevin said, this community is a herd of other professionals who are seeking to get better at what actions we take every day in order to achieve our goals in life and in business. So when you access the productive system, you'll get 12 months free membership to Living Your One Thing. You'll get time blocking mastery, which will help you form your first power habit that sticks. You'll get access to the productive guide to eliminating distractions so you can turn your biggest distractions into your biggest opportunities. And you're going to get the One Thing community. That's $7,785 of value. Now, obviously, we're not going to charge you that much. We do think it would be worth it. But let's ask you a question. If all this did was give you a proven system for managing your time so you could stop doing the stuff that doesn't matter and start accomplishing your most important priorities, would it be worth it? If all this did was help you form power habits so that you'd automatically achieve your big goals, would it be worth it? And if all this did was surround you with the right people who understood what you were doing and they could help you eliminate all your distractions, would it be worth it? Think about it this way. What is your time worth? $1,000 a month? $5,000 a month? 10,000? More than that? How much would you invest to get control of your time? See how this would at least be a good deal at $5,000? Because you're on this training, you can get started right now for just $697. And for those of you who are here with KW, in the top right-hand corner, so you're going to see a button that's going to pop up on the screen. You can click on that. If you're with KW, in the top right-hand corner, there will be a thing that says KW Associates. Click here. Go ahead and click that because we got something real special for you in there. So click on the button in the bottom right-hand corner and you can get started. And here's the thing, folks. We're about you getting results. So one of the things we really want to do, just to make this a really no-brainer, is we want to take your risk away. We want you to feel confident making an investment in yourself. And we know the only way this won't work for you is if you don't do the work. We wouldn't be presenting you with this opportunity, with this system, if we weren't absolutely confident that it would work for you. And that's why we're guaranteeing your satisfaction. So when you sign up, if you don't like it for any reason within 30 days, just let us know and we'll give you your money back. Okay. So at this point, you've really got two choices. First is you can choose to do nothing and not take a leap of faith, which in this case is 100% risk-free. Or the second option is you can make a small investment in yourself compared to all the value that you'd be getting in return and give it a shot. And truth is, folks, if we can't save you time, then we really don't deserve yours. So click the button to get started, or you can open a new browser tab and go to TheOneThing.com/system offer. And when you do, you'll get 12 months free access to living your one thing. You'll get time blocking mastery. You'll get the productive guide to eliminating distractions, and you'll get access to the One Thing community. And we have one last surprise that we want to throw in there for you. For the first 50 of you who sign up right now, we are also going to give you access to our Millionaire Productivity Habits crash course. You know the importance by now of forming the right power habits. And oftentimes people ask, well, which habit should I form? So what we did is we researched the people who've achieved extraordinary results, all of them millionaires, and discovered the specific habits they have in the morning, during the day, and at night. We then packed them into this powerful crash course so you can pick which one you'd like to make a habit first. Sound cool, right? So if you're in the first 50, not only are you going to get a year to living your one thing, not only are you going to get time blocking mastery, the productive guide to eliminating distractions, and the community, you're also going to get the Millionaire Productivity Habits crash course, which is $8,782 of value. And you can get started by clicking that button in the bottom right-hand corner for just $697. Okay. So we're going to leave this up here, folks. Now we want to invest time in you. We really want to go into Q&A. We want to answer your questions and make sure that you walk away here prepared, ready to take action. So I'm going to grab a quick sip of water. Nicole said, that's funny, Nicole. Yeah. So there's a video on that order page, Nicole. You can pause it if you'd like, but just put your information in on that page and you can get started. So first question comes from Gayleen, who asked, what about if you have a full-time job that has nothing to do with what you really want in your heart, that takes so much of my time that I hardly have extra to focus on my one thing, which is building my business? How can I fit this in when I'm already tight on time? First and foremost, Gayleen, thank you. Great question. Back when I was in medical device sales, I remember I got to that point where I just lost the passion for the job. And I remember thinking all I wanted to do was free up time for my business. But the job is what was keeping the roof over the head. And I was really struggling. And I sat down with a mentor of mine and he asked me a question. He said, Jeff, why are you hating on your stepping stone? And I remember thinking to myself, what do you mean hating on my stepping stone? He says, well, I know this isn't where you want to be. However, will you ever get to your long-term goals without this experience? And I said, no. He said, then how can you start showing gratitude for your current situation? And that shifted everything for me because it just became so clear. It's easy to get down in the dumps on the personal situation. And he asked me, how would you have to manage your time so that you could make twice as much money while working half the hours so you could free up time to build your side business and not have to sacrifice time with your family? Which that just blew my mind. How would I have to manage my time so I could double my income, work half the hours, have time for my business, my side business, and still be present with my family? That when I started showing up in the world that way, Galen, there was a different level of commitment. And what I discovered was that there was a tremendous amount of time I was wasting every single day. And when I got purposeful about it, I now had purpose behind what I was doing. I have to be as efficient and effective as possible so that I can have time to invest in my business and I don't have to sacrifice time with my family. I found a way to make it happen. So here's the point, Galen. We acknowledge and respect the fact that you have a full-time job and that you are going to show up fully for them. We acknowledge the fact that you want to build this business on the side and you currently feel like there's just not enough time. The question is, are you managing your time the best that it can be done? If the answer to that is no, which I think most of you, that answer is no, do you think that this would help you get there? We know the average person takes back control of 20% of their time in the first 30 days. So what faster way is there to free up your time and get the results that you want? Okay. So we hope that you would consider doing this. We really believe it would help you. So hopefully that helps. Tanya says, how do I balance my personal 411 with my business? I'm kicking on my one thing in business. Tanya, the idea, you've got priorities and things that are going on in your work life and your personal life. Truth is, there is enough time. The question is, how are you managing your time? My question for you, Tanya, is do you really have clarity on what your priorities are in your professional life? Do you have clarity on what your true priorities are in your personal life? And if we looked at your calendar, does it reflect those priorities? I would strongly suggest starting there because that makes a huge difference. Rachel asks, what's the difference between living your one thing and the one thing community? Great question, Rachel. So living your one thing is the time management system for you having clarity on what your goals are, having clarity on the actions that you need to take every day, and there's accountability to taking the right actions every week. The one thing community is the actual social media community where everybody is inside, communicating with one another, sharing their successes, frankly, posting when they're really struggling and supporting one another. Okay, so they go hand in hand, they go together. Okay, so great question. Thank you for asking. Kurt asked, this looks great, and I trust you, Gary, and Jay would put together a great product. My challenge is I've tried online programs before, and I didn't get the results I hoped for. Can you walk me through this? Kurt, thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate it, man. This reminds me, there's a woman named Carrie who, mother of 3, small business owner, and for years she felt like she was banging her head up against the wall because she was working so hard in her business and just not seeing the results. And at this point, the heat was really ratcheting up because the bills kept coming and there just wasn't any safety net financially. She needed to perform. And she realized it came down to how she was managing her time. And she started working with us. And for the first 2 weeks, she was just gung-ho committed. She dove in and she started getting results, but then life started getting in the way. Suddenly it wasn't as easy to protect the time to do the trainings. And a few months passed by, she didn't do anything. And she just reverted back to all her negative habits. And she and I ended up on the phone because I noticed she wasn't engaging in the community. So I called her. We really want to help you. So I got on the phone with her and asked what was going on. And she's like, no, everything was good at the beginning, but then life got in the way. And I asked her a question. I said, what will happen if you continue to act this way? And she was just on the verge of tears because she realized they needed the money to pay the bills. And more importantly, her 3 kids were watching her. She realized that they were seeing how mom would respond when things got tough. And it was in that moment that she said, you know what? It's up to me. Doesn't matter what the program is, doesn't matter who the coach or accountability partner is. If I am not willing to hold myself accountable to showing up and doing what's required, I'll never get the results. And she doubled down. She made a commitment to herself and she started over at the beginning. And this time there was purpose because she realized she was setting an expectation for her children. And you fast forward to today, man, she is on a mission. And every day she has purpose behind when she wakes up. Her time is blocked. She does her income generating activities first before she earns the right to check email or do meetings or anything else. And it's completely changed the way that she shows up in her business. And most importantly, she's teaching her kids what it looks like to change your circumstances. She's teaching her kids how when things are tough, you make the commitment and do the right activities. So my question for you, Kurt, is when you tried programs like this in the past, were you committed? Or were you expecting the program to be a silver bullet that just by signing up, all of a sudden extraordinary results will fall down from the sky? This is not that program. This will work for you if you will work for it. We have the model, we have the system. But this is not going to silence your emails. This is not going to cancel your meetings. This is not going to accomplish your priorities for you. It will show you how to do all those things. You have to be willing to do the work. Great question, and thank you. Here we go. Karen. Hi, Karen. What do you do when you can't come up with your one thing? When I try to think of it in terms of what makes everything easier or unnecessary, I come up blank. I can come up with specific projects to work on or to move certain areas, but I can't come up with that domino habit. So Karen, Jay said to me, if you don't know what your one thing is, then your one thing is to figure out your one thing. My question for you, Karen, is how much time have you actually blocked on your calendar for you to not be in email, for you to not be in meetings, for you not to be doing busy work, for you to think, for you to dream, for you to work on your business? Finding your one thing, that one of the false assumptions is that we only have one thing. That's not true. We have one thing for every area of our life. The question for you is narrow that focus. What's the one area you want to make an impact in first? And what's the one thing you can do to make the biggest impact in that area, and whittle it down to the point where it is such a small activity that it's like Peggy saying, I will be in my gym clothes and out the office door by 5:33 p.m. That's where I'd start. Victor asked, I'm like Gayleen, between working a full-time job, traveling every week, and spending time with family, will I be able to make time for this? So Victor, great question. There's a guy named Martin who was one of our early members in this system. And at that point in his life, all his focus was on taking his business, which was already growing really well, but he wanted to take it to the next level. And as many of you know, your business only grows to the extent that you do, right? And this was Martin's problem, or should we say, we'll say his opportunity. That's the optimist in me. Like many of us, when we're focusing on our business, we're running around like a chicken with our head cut off. And he was just running from meeting to meeting, always putting out fires. Plus, he had a really demanding travel schedule. And as a result, he was working crazy hours. He spent a lot of time away from his family. And when he was in town, he was walking in the door at like 7 p.m. And then he was still on his phone. He wasn't present with his kids. And Martin realized that while, yes, he wanted to grow his business, the thing that actually mattered most to him was his family. And his actions weren't aligned with his goals. And at that point, he wondered how he'd ever be able to realign things so he could strike that balance. And that's when he started working with us. And as he followed the system, he put all the doubt aside and just started following the system. He got really clear about what the priorities were. He started acting in order of priority, which allowed his business to grow faster. And all of a sudden, he found himself working less hours, which meant that he was getting home at a reasonable time. And when he was home, he was present with his kids. And what he discovered is that there is enough time to do it all if you don't fall prey to the number one lie of productivity, the lie that everything matters equally. For years, he treated everything like it mattered equally. He ended up wasting several hours a day because he told himself the story that all that stuff that's popping up that's urgent was important when it wasn't. And as soon as he got clarity on what the most important work was, and he followed the system, he said yes to doing the most important things, and he did it in less time. So yes, Victor, even you, if you have a demanding work schedule, travel schedule, there's a way to make this work as long as you're willing to follow the system. Great question. Thank you. Doreen asked, how does this work if you're already a member of Living Your One Thing? Awesome, Doreen, and thanks for being a member. Like we mentioned earlier, you're in the perfect spot. So when you access the system, you'll get an additional year's membership of Living Your One Thing added to your account for free. So if you're a monthly member, then you're going to be upgraded from monthly to an annual member, and your next 12 months will be free. And if you're currently an annual member, then we're going to add an additional 12 months onto your account at no additional charge. Plus, you're going to get time blocking mastery. And if you're in the first 50 millionaire productivity habits and all the other stuff that's on the screen. Okay. So, and if in your case, Doreen, if you fast forward 30 days and you've had a change of heart for whatever reason, just let us know. We'll refund your investment of the productive system, and then you'll be right back on your current membership for Living Your One Thing. Okay. Here, folks, one of the things we want to do for you, I want to show you what this looks like. Once you guys go through the order page, so the onething.com/system offer. Let me show you guys my screen real quick. screen. Here, your entire screen. Let's do that. And in here, you go ahead and you will end up getting access to the platform, which, good afternoon, Jeff. Thank you very much. So then you will enter the suite where you will have access to Living Your One Thing. You'll have access to Time Blocking Mastery. What we would suggest for you guys, because the number one mistake that you can make is trying to consume all of this. It's just too much. What we would suggest for those of you who are not in Living Your One Thing yet is to start there. And literally we have a section that says start here. So if you click on that, it tells you exactly how to onboard. And the reason we suggest starting with Living Your One Thing is simply because this will help you take back more of your time immediately. And once you've taken back extra time, then you'll have additional time to invest in time blocking mastery so you can form your first power habit, millionaire productivity habits. But we would strongly suggest starting here as the core. And if you want to start elsewhere, totally choose your own adventure type of situation. So it's just up to you based on what you want to do. Okay, so hopefully that helped you. So folks, we hope that you are considering joining this. We know the power that this thing can. Let's see what's the next question that we have here. I'll turn this back on. Okay. For those of you who are already on Living Your One Thing, so like Rachel, I see you're on the monthly plan. So what you're going to do is all your current monthly investments will stop. You make this investment, and then all your existing monthly investment for Living Your One Thing goes away. Okay. For the next year, it's included. Okay. And then when you guys do invest in this after that year, you have the option to be on the annual plan, and it's $249 for the year after that. Okay. And there'll be a notification that gets sent out so you can decide if you want to stick or not. Okay. Rachel says, I tend to struggle setting and keeping time blocks because inevitably I'm not done with my work when the time block is done. So I've tended to just keep working anyway, which is sacrificing time that I've committed to my kids and my husband. What is the one habit for time blocking I can establish first? Ooh. Rachel, what do you think the one habit is? I'll ask you, I'll answer your question with a question. First and foremost, I ask, the number one mistake people make time blocking is that they simply time block too much. If you try to time block all day, every day, you are going to fail. It's more important that you think big and go small. Can you prove to yourself, Rachel, that you can protect a time block for 15 minutes until that becomes a habit? That's where I would encourage you to go. If you want to form a habit around time blocking, is to lower the bar and prove to yourself that you can be the type of person who can protect your time consistently before you earn the right to expand the amount of time that you're trying to control. Okay. Hopefully that helps you. Nicole says, I just signed up. Yes, Nicole. Will I be getting an email with a better explanation of how to start this? 100%, Nicole. And if for whatever reason you do not get an email, which you should, email us mastery@theonething.com, mastery@theonething.com with the number 1, and we'll make sure that we get back to you. So really excited to work with you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's going to be awesome. All right. Next question. Patty asked, I have done everything possible to protect my time, curtains on my door, memo board on my door for people to leave me a message, locking my door, yet everyone still comes in. Okay. I feel guilty saying no. What works? Hi, Patty. Something my coach said to me once was that you get what you tolerate. When it comes to saying no, it really boils down to your communication. Diane is someone who has worked with us in Living Your One Thing, and she really struggled with this as well. And she's the type of person, she wants to be a resource for others. She takes pride in being a team player. Challenges, for years, people have come to her for support, and she always stopped what she was doing to help them. Now, it only takes 66 days to form a habit, right? So what type of habits do you think she reinforced with her colleagues over years? She basically sent the message that if you've got a problem, bring it to me and I'll solve it for you. And what she shared with us is that when she started following the system, she learned how to say yes to herself first, which meant saying no to people that you're currently dealing with, Patty. And she was amazed at how easy it was for her to protect her time blocks once she actually had a model and a system to follow. What I'm trying to say here, Patty, is there's hope. Like this is not, you just need to be shown how. And it really comes down to, are you effectively communicating with those people? That's really what it comes down to. Okay. So thank you for that. Want to say thank you very much to Jack. Thank you to Rusty. Thank you to Matt, to Patty, to Doreen, to Nicole, to David, to Deanna, to Luke, to Allison, to Bridget, to Robert. We're really excited to work with you guys. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Brad asked question, said, when running two businesses, do you pick one business to focus on first, or do you split time and focus on one thing in each business? Solid question. This comes up a lot with the productive system members, Brad. Regardless of how many businesses you're involved with, you have an infinite list of things that you need to do in a finite amount of time, right? So whenever we see somebody who's hitting up against the ceiling of their achievement and they're following the models, they're following the systems, and the ceiling is still there, they're missing a person. And what I'm hearing here in your case, Brad, is maybe you're missing a mentor or a coach. You most likely are missing leverage. So my question for you is, how can you have clarity on what your priorities are in each of your businesses? And how can you start documenting the processes, kind of like Adam did, so that those doing a lot of those important activities can become somebody else's opportunity? So that's what I would really suggest. But at the end of the day, success is sequential, not simultaneous. So you got a lot of things to do. You got multiple businesses. What's number one? What is the one thing you can do first? You got to pick one, start there before you earn the right to go into the next one. What happens after the year's membership of Living Your One Thing? Like we mentioned, then you have the option to be on an annual membership at $249 for the year, and a notification will be sent out, and you can decide if you would like to continue or not. Robert said, I don't struggle with distractions so much as knowing where I should be, what I should be doing during the time block. Will this help me? 100%, Robert. At the heart of the predictive system is clarity. The number one reason we find people don't know what to do during their time blocks is because they don't actually have absolute clarity on what their priorities really are. Imagine the situation where you and I are sitting down face to face right now. I just teleported to where you are. We're looking at each other. You're like, oh, he didn't shave today. And it's like, it's okay, Jeff. It's okay. And I ask you, what are the handful of true priorities that you absolutely must accomplish this week? The handful of priorities that if you just did these things would make it the most extraordinary week in your entire professional career. Would you look at me and go, easy, Jeff, 1, 2, 3? Or would you pause, look at me like a deer in the headlights and go, good question. The beauty of the productive system is when you have absolute clarity on your priorities, and even further, your priorities are in order of priority, meaning they're ranked, you start showing up with your time blocks with more purpose. You know exactly what you need to be doing, and you invest your time appropriately. So what I would suggest for you, Robert, and for anybody who's in his shoes, if it works for you, give it a try. And go through, like we showed you inside of Living Your One Thing, go through the Start Here section. And in less than 30 days, you should really have a good sense of clarity around what your priorities are. And I think you'll find that your time blocks have been completely transformed. So awesome, man. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Here we go. Let me grab a drink of water, please. Rachel said, probably making more specific time blocks. Sure, Rachel, but it's more about, this is about momentum. Rachel asked the question earlier about struggling with the time blocking. It's about momentum. You got to prove to yourself that you can control 15 minutes before you can control 30, before you can control an hour, before you can control 4 hours. Many people will go, ooh, time blocking sounds awesome. I'm going to time block every minute of every single day. And when they fail, because they all do, they feel like a failure. How long are you willing to feel like a failure before you rewrite the rules of the game so you no longer can feel like a failure? Lower the bar. Build momentum. That's what it comes down to. All right. Here we go. So Susanna asked, you already have time blocking mastery. So Susanna, if you already have time blocking mastery, go to TheOneThing.com/membership, and you can do Living Your One Thing solo if you think that's a better fit for you. So totally cool. Or you can email me, Jeff at TheOneThing.com, and we'll get you taken care of. So thank you for being here, and thanks for the interest. Appreciate you. Lorelei, I'm on the fence. For me, it's a matter of, should I wait until I can afford to sign up, or should I sign up and muster the faith that I will be able to bring in a lot more income? You know what, Lorelei? What finger am I holding up? Trick question. It's not the thumb. Is the thumb not technically a finger? What is that? You have 5 fingers. You do have 5 fingers. Clearly, Daddy needs some more coffee. I was in this position back when my income got slashed and bank account was almost at zero. I had clarity on the fact that I needed to surround myself with the right people. And there was a mastermind that I found out about where just it was going to be all these high level executives and CEOs coming together. And the whole goal was for them to get to know each other and enrich each other's lives. It was application only. And here I am in medical device sales, telling myself the story, like, why in the world would they pick me? But whatever, I'll apply anyways. And so I applied, and I get on the phone for the interview. And after asking me a bunch of questions, they're like, you know what, you're a perfect fit. You're in. And then they told me the investment that was required. And I was speechless because it was a huge number. I just couldn't see a way to do it. I knew it was in the bank account. And I said, I thank you so much. I'm sorry, I can't do it at this time. And that night I went home really feeling defeated because in my heart, I knew this is what I needed. And I was sitting with my wife, sharing this with her. And she goes, what was it that mentor said to you once? And I remembered my mentor told me, it's not the money that's the issue. It's your commitment that's the issue. And let me be very clear here. I'm sharing this with you because this is what worked for me. This may or may not work for you. But I looked at him and I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean it's not the money, it's the commitment? I know how much is in the bank account. And he said, it's not that you don't have the money. It's that you aren't committed enough to finding a way to get the money yet. And when my wife reminded me of that, I was like, oh dear, if I really want it this bad, what will I have to do to generate that amount of income so that I can make the investment in myself? And that question brought purpose into what I was doing in my medical job every day, because at 3:00 when I normally would have gotten tired, I'd be like, oh, it's time for a Starbucks and to head home. I called on another hospital. And when my teeth got kicked in by a doctor because they didn't want to talk to me, and I normally would have tucked my tail and be like, okay, now it's time to go home, I called on another doctor. And what ended up happening is in a very short amount of time, I way overfunded that account. And I was able to attend the mastermind. And that's where I formed my initial core group of mentors that were the inspiration for the Mentee podcast, which gave me the confidence to approach Jay Papasan to interview him. And it gave me, because I had launched a podcast and learned how to turn content into dollars, it's what made me qualified to run this company. Had I bought into my story that because I didn't have the money at the moment that I couldn't have made the investment, I actually don't think I would be here right now. Now, I share this with you because that's what worked for me. Our brand is about helping you and bringing value to you. We are not in this. This is not a profit thing for us. This is an impact thing for us. We will be that candor, that voice of accountability, that voice of reason. We will push you to your possibilities when you may be fighting for your limitations. With that said, I will ask you, do you really feel, is it the money or is it the commitment? And if it really is the money, please don't make the investment. We'll be the first to say, don't do it. We don't want you to put yourself in a bad financial spot. It's not worth it. However, what will it take for you to generate the income so that you can make the investment? It's one way or another. And there's no right or wrong answer, but that's what worked for me. So hopefully that helps you. Let's look for Guys, keep your questions coming. I really want to make sure that we bring value to you guys. Okay. Let me go over here to different slide. You guys can still see my face, right? Yes. So please put yes in the chat box. Peggy says, I've always been able to motivate myself and really struggling with this now. I'm in full burnout and concerned about doing something new. I really don't know where to start. Can this work for me? Yeah, Peggy, I'll just go back to my medical story. You know, when I was really burned out, that mentor who challenged me to double my income, I mean, he really helped me. He said, what does it take to gamify your situation? You know, don't hate on your stepping stone. How can you do something to motivate yourself? And by asking the question, how do I double my income while working half the hour so that I have the time to build a side business so that I can still have time to invest with my family? That suddenly turned something I wasn't passionate about into a challenge, into a game. So my question for you in this situation, Peggy, is even if you're not able to motivate yourself right now, what will it take? And ultimately in this situation, it was because I was in a relationship with somebody else, because I had the right community around me. They were able to fight for my possibilities when I was fighting for my limitations. So the question for you, Peggy, is do you think if that you entered a community of people who were like-minded, ambitious, who had similar dreams, who were willing to have these types of conversations with you, would that help you? Because if so, that's what we have created. Okay, so give it a shot. We know that this will bring tremendous value to you. We wouldn't be sitting here sharing this with you otherwise. And if it's not a fit, ask for your money back. So hopefully that helps you. Okay. Keep the questions coming, folks. I really, really appreciate these. And hopefully this is bringing value to you. Oh, the calendar thing. I got so caught up in the questions. Okay. Hey, remember I made you a promise about that one tweak you could make to your calendar and you would take back all this time. Let's do that. Do me a favor. Open up your calendar, whether it's on your computer, whether it's on your phone. And what I would like you to do not check email. Don't do it. No. What I would like you to do is over the next week, 2 weeks, look at everything on your calendar. And I want you to find one thing that you just know. You're like, that's not my most important work. I'm just telling myself the story that I have to do that. Find one thing. Let us know when you got it. Say, got it. Put it in the chat box. Got it. And here's what we would like you to do. This is going to blow your mind. Cancel it. What? I can't. 2 ways you can cancel. One, the rip off the Band-Aid approach. Can't attend anymore. Sorry. Cancel. Say nothing else. See if the world still spins. Option 2, if you don't want to go that bold, we call this the massage it in approach, is send them an email. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Something has come up. Can you please circle back with me in a week and reschedule? Now, notice the language that was used there. Can you please circle back with me a week from now for us to reschedule? Here's why that's important. How many of you think that when somebody schedules a meeting with you, that they show up 100% prepared to get the most out of your time together and guarantee you a return on your investment? Yes or no in the chat box? Nope. No's. So when you circle back, or when you email them and say, I'm so sorry, something has come up, can you circle back with me? What we have found is because you are asking them to put some work in, oh my God forbid you ask me to do some work, they don't circle back. Which, how important was that meeting to begin with? You are in control of your time. For whatever reason, we have just gone through life blindly saying yes to meetings. And even if it is a meeting that we really believe we need to be in, if it's not our most important priority, What can you do so that you can still get the information? Do you physically need to be sitting in the room for that long to get the information? No. Can somebody send you an email after with a recap? Yes. Could somebody call you and fill you in for 5 minutes on what happened? Yes. If you need to contribute, could you show up for a portion of the meeting? Yes. You are in control of your time. Let's take the control. Take the control, baby. Do it. Love it. Sorry. Now I'm getting pumped up. Steve, I am 60 plus years old and just had my position eliminated. I'm sorry, Steve. Time I have plenty of now, but the clarity on the next step in my life I lack. I know what my one thing now is to figure out my next one thing. Well, this course really helped me in that regard. Steve, I really believe it will. And again, man, I'm so sorry about that. First thing I'm going to ask you is, and it sounds like you have a good head on your shoulders and a good mindset around this. What good will come from this? What great thing is going to come from this? You know, when you study the people who have achieved extraordinary results in their lifetime, you will find that often some of the greatest inventions and accomplishments came out of adversity, came out of struggle. So I feel I'm just, again, I apologize that's what you're going through. How can you turn this into your greatest asset? You've got time on your hands, my friend. And the answer is yes, because when you go through this stuff, we take you living your one thing. And when you go through that, we help you, give you the system for getting clarity on what your goals really are. We did a live goal setting retreat here in Austin, and we had people who were in their 70s, retired executives, their husband-wife couple that came, who went, we had never, like, they're in the stage of their life where they were kind of in cruise control, and they were going, wow, like, we've got purpose. We've got ambition again. We've got something to go after. All of that is in here. So I feel confident. And if you do choose to join us, Steve, shoot me an email and let me know how it's going in 30 days. And if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to get on the phone with you and help you out. So yeah, man, again, I'm sorry. And hopefully, like, folks, if you haven't seen the fact that we care, like, if this isn't coming through yet, like, this is what lights me up. The fact that a person like Steve can be going through something like this, like, I feel confident that this can help him identify the next chapter in his life, to the point where I'm willing to take my time. Like, Steve, I'll get on the phone with you, man. I just want to help you. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you, at least even for the curiosity at this point. Folks, what questions do you have? Submit them, please. Darla. Okay. Do we answer Darla's? I feel vulnerable asking this question, but I'll go for it anyways. This is everything I need right now. The problem is I doubt my own ability to take action and be consistent. Can you talk me through this? First and foremost, thank you for being so self-aware. Totally cool. My question for you, Darla, and everybody, walk yourself through this as well, because this is to help you. What is it that you want to change? What's going on in your life that's making you say, I need to make a change? In fact, I'd actually love you guys to share it. Please share it with us in the chat box. We can mastermind around this. Now, here's the question, Darla. I want you to imagine you fast forward 6 months, and imagine that you had clarity. You're 6 months from now, you're looking back on this moment, knowing that you had clarity that you needed to make this change, and you chose not to. You didn't change your actions. And make no mistake about it, folks. Inaction is a decision. You chose not to make a change. What will life look like 6 months from now if you continue to do the same things and you don't make a change? When you consider that, what are your emotions? How does that feel? Now let's flip it. Imagine 6 months from now, you're looking back on this moment. You're going, that was the moment that I got clarity, that this is the area of my life that I really want to change. And you went through the system, you got clarity on the activities, and you started taking the right activities, just knocking that domino down every single day. What will life look like in 6 months? What will life look like in 6 months if you just kept doing the stuff that was on the right side of that page when we drew the line down the middle and you just did the most important activities every single day? What will life look like? When you consider that, what are your emotions? You've really got two choices at this point. I like to call it the easy way and the hard way. The hard way, unfortunately, is what most of us do every day, which is where we wake up with goals and we take lots of action, but we're reinventing the wheel and we're not actually taking the right actions. That's the hard way. The easy way is when you get purposeful. You just identify the model. You just focus on following the model, doing the right activities day after day after day, and boom, over the long run, you get results. So Darla, I love your question. My question for you is, do you think that if you gave this thing a shot, that it would help you take the action that you doubt you can take? I've seen too many people go through this. I know what's possible for you. So the question is, are you committed enough? Like, is your pain in your life high enough for you to go, like for me, when the income got slashed and the colleague has the stroke, it's like, nope, I'm done. It's time to make a change. Are you there? Do you need to let things get worse before you are compelled to take action? Hopefully that will not be your reality. So thank you very much for the question. Great question, by the way. Nicole, I have to jump off soon, but thank you for your time, your energy. Super excited to grow and be a better me. I've literally rewired my mindset since reading The One Thing and listening to the podcast. Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, folks. As much value as hopefully we have brought you in this training, it's exponential on this end, because like this is about impact. This is about legacy for us, and it's just so cool to see. So thank you very much. Hey, David, Deanna, Lee, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it, folks. Here, guys, I'm going to put this back up on the screen, because I know we've been looking at the face for a little while now. /system offer. At this point, we still have not gotten to 50 yet. So you will get 12 months of living your one thing. You'll get time blocking mastery. You'll get the millionaire productivity habits at this point. You'll get the productive guide to eliminating distractions, and you will get the one thing community. So hopefully you will give this thing a shot. Again, we back it with a guarantee. So if for any reason within the 30 days, you just go, you know what, not the fit, totally cool, let us know. We're confident in our ability to bring results for you. We hope you'll give that a shot for yourself. Danny says, great podcast lately. Lots of value out of my life. Oh, thanks, Danny. Really appreciate it. Key Doki, I'm getting thirsty. More water. Folks, soon we're going to wrap it up. So we're going to take the last batch of questions. Here's what's interesting. I can still see how many of you are here. There are a lot of you still on. I'm curious, out of curiosity, why are you still here? We've been going for 1 hour and 32 minutes. I'll stay as long as there's value to bring to you. My question is, why are you still here? Share that with us. Genuinely curious. And at this point, how can we serve you best? What's the thing we can do to support you at a higher level? Bernadette says, I recently signed up with a coach. Will this still help me? Oh yeah, Bernadette. So on the back, and we're putting together a coaching company around the one thing for one-on-one executive coaching. And here's what we've realized. The biggest opportunity in coaching is that coaches invest a lot of time training their clients when they could be coaching them to their possibilities. So what we see happening is this being the platform where you get the training that you need. You get the training on how to identify your goals, on how to identify the right activities to have the accountability around. You get the training on how to form power habits. You get the training on how to eliminate distractions. And then when you're with your coach, you get to have bigger conversations about how to get to your possibilities. So yeah, this goes hand in hand. So great question. Thank you very much, Bernadette. And honestly, like, kudos to you for having a coach. It's the highest form of accountability. Gary has coaches. Jay has a coach. I have a coach. If that's ever of interest for anybody, by the way, email me, Jeff@TheOneThing.com with the number 1 in the URL. Put coaching in the subject line and we'll put you, we're not ready to roll yet, but we'll put you on the list to reach out to just explore with it if it's a fit when we're ready to roll. Rochelle says, what if I am just starting my business and not really sure what direction to take? So Rochelle, great question. Very much, I think, aligned with what Steve asked. You know, he's at a transition in his career. You know, if you don't know what your one thing is, then your one thing is to discover your one thing. So how can you protect time regularly for you to seek clarity? The path to clarity, the path to discovering your purpose, it all starts by getting on the path. So how much time are you currently investing in you seeking that clarity? You're just starting your business. Is checking email the most important thing you can be doing to grow your business? Say no. Now, how much time are you checking email versus lead generating for new clients, for engaging with your ideal customer to understand what their true pain is? How much time are you investing in ensuring that everything you create is so good, so world-class that your customers feel compelled to share it so you build a referral-based business? Those are some things to start. Melanie, I'm working on a goal right now that takes up a lot of my time. It's my one thing right now, but I want to work on an idea that will create passive income. Other than working a lot, my time is my own. I don't have meetings, etc., unless I make them. Can this program help you with the business idea? So Melanie, you know, the people who we see, some of the people we see just getting awesome results in this are those people who don't have the structure of a quote corporate job. They control their own hours. They work from home. They're 100% in control of their time. And because they are 100% in control, they feel like they don't control anything because there's just no structure for them. This is where, well, I'll ask you as a question, Melanie. If you had a model and a system that made suggestions to you on this is what you should focus on this week, and it was very specific, would that help you? We sure think it will. We've seen it work already. So the answer is yes, and we feel confident. And I think you'll be blown away. You know, I mentioned Carrie earlier, that mom of 3, small business owner, really struggled. That was her problem, is that because she was in control of her time, it was a hodgepodge of random things. And when she simply followed the system, she went, no. First thing I do is this. This is what I do first. Income generating activities. And when she protected her time to do that, business starts to take off. And then she goes, oh, I still got time to be with my kids and play with them in the middle of the day. So that's the opportunity. Brooklyn. Hi, Jeff. I joined last week. Yes, Brooklyn. I'm excited to begin. The issue I'm having is that I spent the past 4 years working toward the wrong one thing that ended in failure. I felt clarity on this career choice, which causes major doubt in my mind surrounding how to choose my new one thing. Okay, Brooklyn, awesome question. And thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. What did you learn? Knowing what you know now, Brooklyn, if you had to transport yourself back 4 years, what would you tell yourself so that you wouldn't make certain mistakes? What would that be? You know, Jay and I are talking about this all the time. We talk about what does it mean to be an empire builder? What does it take to grow a great business? And Gary says success is nothing more than moving from failure to failure without giving up. You're going to fail. The question is, when you fail, when you face adversity, when you have situations like this, what are you learning so you don't repeat the mistake? There was something that inspired you 4 years ago to go down that career, Brooklyn. What do you need to consider moving into this next stage in your career so you can make a more informed decision? Our strong suggestion to you is not get discouraged. Success is moving from one failure to the next without giving up. Don't give up. Marianne says, thanks for a great webinar. Hey, Marianne, thank you. Appreciate you. Seriously, you invested this much of your time. That means more to us than you know. So thank you. Lori asks, what's the VAT number for time? Oh, so on the order page, there's a thing that says VAT number. That's just for international. You can ignore that. Just put in the rest of your information and go ahead and click that green submit button, and you will be in the productive system, which will be oh so exciting. Anybody else having fun at this point? Scale of 1 to 10. This is just good feedback for us. How much value is this? Or how did this meet your expectations? 1 is, I didn't even realize I was signing up for this webinar. And 10 is like, you exceeded my expectations. Where did we land for you? Because honestly, like we're on our own road to mastery. We want to continue to get better for you. That matters to us. We're going to do a few more questions and then we're going to wrap. So now is that last chance to submit your question. FaceTime is awesome. FaceTime. Yes. Few more questions and then we're going to wrap, because guess what? I am committed to being home with my kids. Patrick, how do you overcome the fear of chaos? Oh, so good. Good question. Here's what happens, folks. It's one of the thieves of productivity, this fear of chaos, because imagine you get clarity on your most important work and you open up your calendar, you go, no, this is the time. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to check email. I'm not going to say yes to when other people ask, do you got a minute? I'm going to focus on this. Do you think the world just goes, oh, okay, yep, you go do your thing. You're good. That number next to your email gets bigger. The to-dos get longer. And before you know it, you start to feel like you're in the submarine underwater and like there's just pressure coming in from all these angles. And it gets to the point where you just want to raise your head above water and go and take a breath and just acknowledge the 80% where I just want to clear it off. That's the fear of chaos. If doing the most important thing is the most important thing, why would you do anything else? Now, we're not saying you don't do email or any of that. We're saying do your most important work first. Truth is, and this is without fail, I've done this so many times, and we've had thousands of people that we have done this with, where once you follow the productive system and you actually have clarity on what your priorities are, if we asked you to put a number and say, okay, how much time is it going to take you to do your number 1 priority this week? You're like, hour and a half. Okay. How much time is it going to take you to do your number 2 priority? Okay. 2 hours. How much time is it going to take you to do number 3? 30 minutes. Before you realize it and you actually add up how much time it takes you to do your most important work, what we have found is on average, it takes roughly 20% of your work week to do your 20% work. This makes us ask, what are you doing with your time? So many of us feel like there's just too much to do and not enough time. It's a myth. It's a lie. There is enough time if you're doing the right things. 80-20 rule, the 20% that's going to get you 80% of the results. It's only going to take roughly 20% of your week to get 80% of your results. And then you got all this time to skip around the office, to sing songs, to chat with people, to be on Facebook, to do whatever else unproductive that you want to do. You got time. That's right. Oh, he went there. Yeah. All right. Monique says value 10. Oh, thank you very much. She found this very inspiring. Thank you very much. Brooklyn, 10 out of 10, dude. Thanks, Brooklyn. You are awesome. Rachel, is it Rachel or Rochelle? I think it's Rachel. Will this deal still be good tonight? My husband would like to discuss it with me first. Yes, it will. We're going to send some emails out after, and there will be a link. Folks, we're not high pressure salespeople. Like, do we want to make you a compelling offer? Yes. Is this a good deal? Yes. If you went and tried to get all this individually, it would be more money. Like, this is a good deal. And no, I'm not holding a gun to your head, because that's not how we roll. Okay. We want to bring value to you. If you think you're going to get more value by having us there by your side as your accountability partner and implementing this, then yeah, awesome. And if it's not a fit, totally cool. Keep showing up for webinars. Listen to the One Thing podcast. Share it with your friends. We're here to add value. Thank you. I'm going to do a drink of water, then we're going to do the final question. The final question. Okay. Hey, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you for signing up. Appreciate it. Okay, here we go. The last question comes from Dan. What's the number one mistake people make doing this? Okay, Dan. I was in a mastermind with Gary, and he looked out at the room and said the number one reason that people fail living their one thing is because they're unwilling to endure the monotony of success. By now, you should understand that success is not doing everything that's on your to-do list. It's about having clarity on the handful of true priorities that if you just did it again and again and again and again and again, over time would unleash hockey stick growth in your life. The challenge is the first few weeks, and all of you who have signed up for this, first, thank you. Second, the first few weeks, you're going to be all excited. You're like, yeah, I'm so productive. Look at me. Woohoo. And then you're going to be like Carrie. It's going to get a little boring. Think, oh, do I really want to do that right now? No, I'm going to go watch Game of Thrones instead because that's where extraordinary results lie. Extraordinary entertainment? Yes. Results? No. And then after a few weeks, life's going to start getting in the way. It's flat out going to attack you. You are going to try to live your one thing, and it is going to fight for your attention, that fear of chaos. The question is, how will you endure the monotony of success? What is that thing that is going on in your world right now that is so painful that it will compel you to take action? When you inevitably get bored with this, when it gets hard to live your one thing, what will you remind yourself so that you can stay consistent? That is the biggest mistake, is that people don't ask those questions. They don't endure the monotony of success. There you go. Folks, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. You made an investment. Looks like based on your feedback, you feel like you have gotten the return. That means the world to us. That's the win. Regardless of, all of you who signed up, thank you very much. Those of you who signed up, thank you anyways for being here. We just wanted to bring value to you. Look forward to serving you further. If there's anything we can do to support you, shoot us an email, mastery@theonething.com. Make it an awesome year.